The Ministry of Youth Development and Sports will be assisting in the fight to reduce the spread of the coronavirus, the COVID-19, by distributing reusable face masks to young people across the island. We want young people to model the behavior of wearing these face masks to signal their commitment to halt the transmission of COVID-19. If you will be leaving your home, please wear a face mask. Youth workers will sensitize the communities at the appropriate time of distribution, which I think certainly might be next week.
And that was the Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Edmund Estefan. And this gesture by the ministry signals a recognition of April as Youth Month. And because of COVID-19, all celebrations and activities and events that would have attracted public gatherings have been cancelled. That's one side of the spectrum, and we see a number of youth and sports councils across the island, as well as the NYC, engaging young people in the awareness of COVID-19 and the related protocols and other issues. The NYC incidentally celebrated its 45th anniversary on April 14th. At the other end of the spectrum, which is our focus here today, are the elderly and vulnerable persons in our midst. And when we come back, we'll be joined by our in-studio guests. We now take a break.
Coronavirus? But children are safe, no?
Hold up. Children are actually more likely to touch all kinds of surfaces, put their hands on their mouths and their eyes, or sneeze and cough with little thought about hygiene when around others. While children have been seen to recover well from this virus, they can easily spread it to those more at risk, like the elderly or ill persons who have a weaker immune system. Teach the little ones in your care to be little powerhouses of infection prevention. Keep reminding them, wash your hands. Cover your mouth with tissue or your inner elbow when you sneeze and cough. And be sure to praise them when you see them taking these precautions. Our health is in our hands. Together, through simple actions, we can stop the spread of coronavirus. This message was brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
And welcome back. In studio with us, we have Ms. Andrea Alcide, who is a family caseworker with a focus on elder care. First, welcome to our COVID-19 Information Command Center.
Thank you, Tony.
How are things going? How are you coping?
Trying. A bit anxious, a bit uncomfortable with COVID, but trying.
Yes, I think like millions of us all over the world. Tell us a little about your work, the focus on the elderly.
Okay, within the Division of Human Services, we have this new unit, basically new, about a year and a half. It's an elder care unit. Our responsibility is for all elderly persons within the country. We have two zones, Viewfort, the north and the south. We are 2 persons in the unit. And we respond to reports of abuse, neglect, family dysfunction, anything that pertains to making the elderly uncomfortable and displaced.
Mm-hmm. And that has to do with whether the elderly at home or whether in care of a
It could be them at home alone, care in an institution, care of somebody else, or they're in the community. Anything that pertains to the elderly, like I said earlier, as long as it's causing some dysfunction or discomfort and it's reported to us, we need to pay attention to it.
Now, how has it been working out now that, you know, the protocols are in place, the curfew, the different zones? How are your caseworkers able to respond if there's a situation that they need to respond to?
Right. So, but currently, as almost everybody else, we try our best to work remotely. However, if there's an emergency situation, as family caseworkers, we have to take the call seriously and make ourselves available to the elderly. So yes, we are able to cross the zones, like they say, go across the borders, and do what is necessary to make things better. Okay,
and in terms of if persons want to reach out to you, there's a complaint, there's a situation that they do not know how to deal with, how is that managed? How is that handled?
Okay, firstly, they would probably, for those who have our contact numbers, they would call and we would try our best to assist via the telephone. If they don't, they would come into the office, speak to the intake officer, or even go to the police like some have done, and the police would report whatever situation to us.
Now, this is a global pandemic. Not only is St. Lucia facing this situation, what advice would you have for persons who have elderly persons in their care under this present circumstance?
The basic thing is try your best to keep them at home. At home is the safest place. Keep them at home, keep them informed, because as much as they're older persons, they need to be in the know of what's going on. So keep them informed, let them have factual information, not the hearsay, but let them have factual information. Avoid visitors. The same practices, the same hygiene practices that we've been taught and told to do on several occasions. We teach them the same, we remind them of the same, and most importantly, just try to keep them safe, keep them comfortable.
Now, you were sharing with me before we came on air your personal experience. Of course, we are very sociable people. You know, we go to visit our parents, our family, the hugging, the kissing, and all have you. How do you bring that across, even in your own personal experience, if you're a family member going to visit your mom, knowing that, you know, if what is going on, you cannot hug the way you used to? How do you bring that message across?
It's difficult, but basically what you have to do is remind them of the pandemic, remind them of what's going on, the reality of it, how it can affect them, considering that according to the World Health Organization and what our CMO has been saying, that elderly has been the greatest population of death. So you need to remind them that, hey, this is real, this is what can happen to you. So, and apologize that, hey, I cannot hug you, I cannot kiss you, I cannot come close, but I'm here, whatever you need, I can do for you.
Okay. Now, one of the underlying effects being exposed due to the coronavirus is that of loneliness. Loneliness among persons staying at home, and particularly loneliness among our elderly. Let us take a look at a BBC Canada report with regards to how they're coping with the loneliness among the elderly.
I want to give them that moment of happiness, at least for them to forget about sort of this whole crisis that's happening.
Vera Zniewski has played for her grandmother since she was a child. It's always been about bringing her joy, now more than ever.
She kind of understands a little bit what's going on. Obviously, she understands the safety that is involved with this, but you know, at the same time, I hear her crying on the phone that she misses us, and you know, for them to try to explain to them what quarantine means, even social distancing, they're sort of aware of what it is, but they don't really understand because they've never experienced something like this before.
This is an extraordinary act of love, and while the precautions behind it are necessary, they're heartbreaking too, isolating the most vulnerable.
This has been sheer hell, really. I don't know.
The thought that her husband is looking for her and can't find her. From a distance and from a device, Martha Farnell tells us it's tearing her apart.
He must be looking for me because he always did. He was always looking to see if I'm coming, if I'm going to be there. So I often wonder what must go through his mind when he doesn't see me, he can't see me, he can't hear me.
Before COVID-19, Martha spent hours by her husband Willard's side. He has advanced dementia and lives in a long-term care home. His agitation eases when she's nearby. But the last time she saw him, she had to tell him she didn't know when she would be back.
It just broke me up. We really hugged, and he was crying and I was crying. He seemed to understand. I kept telling him they don't want me to come in here anymore. So we cried. Then when I went home, it was so hard to go home. That was the last time I saw him.
Up here a bit, Karen.
Powerless in a pandemic.
Okay.
Mike Walker can't visit his wife Karen anymore either.
Well, Karen, how are you doing today?
The facility she's in offers him an iPad to connect with his wife.
Just a new way of communicating for now. Better than nothing.
It's as close as he can get, and he's afraid for how long.
There you go. Come on, smile. We're getting there. My wife has dementia, so it's hard because you don't know how long it's going to be to the point where when I walk in, she just looks at me and has a blank face, or knows me or don't know me, and every day ticking along is another day that it's going to get worse. It's not a backward disease, and that's probably the hard part about it, knowing that every day is getting worse and worse and worse.
The ban on visitors in homes and hospitals is meant to protect the elderly from a disease that could kill them. Yet everyone at Baycrest is acutely aware of the toll loneliness can take.
Does it concern you?
Of course it concerns me, and it concerns everybody. We're always very mindful of our clients' mental health, and this is not great.
Dr. Adriana Schnall says it's why employees here helped organize this birthday party for a resident.
One family went outside of the window, and the residents stood inside, and they were all there, and they had balloons, and they celebrated. I call it a la COVID, you know, like these are the times now, and it was so meaningful for everybody around.
And yet others can't wave from the window or don't have a smartphone. 85-year-old Stephen Parker was hospitalized with pneumonia a couple of weeks ago. His daughter Marianne Parker calls him every day.
Hi.
But no one knows when this will be over, especially her father.
I'm very well. We're all keeping safe. And he said, you know, the hardest times are when you have all that time to yourself. You know, the 3 a.m. wake-ups where you lie there and imagine what's happening. And I think all of us would go down that route of imagining the worst, and am I going to see anyone again, or is this it? Is this what I'm facing? And it's just, it's such a lonely place to be. Okay, Dad.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye for now.
The need to be with the ones you love, it's even stronger now. Vera's grandmother can't see well, and while music is a powerful bridge, Vera just wishes she could get even closer.
Be okay, Bonta? Yeah. Be okay? Okay. I have mixed feelings. It makes me kind of feel angry, to be honest. I'm not angry because they're taking precautions. I'm just angry when it comes to time, only because, you know, our time together is limited and I can't physically be with her. You know, my grandmother is 94 years old, and I feel like time has been taken away from us, especially at a time when she's so fragile. And so it's trying to keep a brave face during a time when there's crisis, and trying to do what I can to bring her happiness, at least.
Even if she can only deliver that happiness from a distance. Joanna Rumiliotis, CBC News, Mississauga, Ontario.
There we saw in that clip from Canada how they were dealing and coping with the whole aspect of loneliness, not being able to visit some of their folks, and using different mediums, you know, FaceTiming and so on. And the whole aspect of loneliness, neglect and what have you of our elderly. You care to comment on that and how we should handle this?
We will find that in this pandemic, in this situation, because as much as persons are older, they enjoy doing things for themselves. They enjoy company. They enjoy a frequent neighbor coming to say hi, coming to see how they're doing. But we know now we have to, you know, curtail or minimize or be very careful how we visit them. So like we saw on the video there, what we can do for those older persons who are tech savvy, the constant video calling, the WhatsApp calling. For those who don't, call them at least twice, 3 times a day. Have the neighbor shout them, or go to see them but stay outside and have the conversation from a distance. That can help. And just have them call us whenever they feel like talking. So there we have to ensure that, you know, we're able to provide that service to them, that access to them, so they can reach us whenever possible. Just to say, hello, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling sick, this is getting me miserable, when will this be over? And they will ask you the regular questions, and it's okay to answer them a million times, because they're lonely, they're miserable, they're confused. So you have to be there, you have to be available.
Let's speak about abandonment. Even outside of COVID, we know that there are situations or circumstances where persons are abandoned for one reason or the other, and your department has to deal with that as well. But even with the onset of COVID, we know that it is a reality as well. How do you deal with that?
It is. For us as a division, we know the clients who are usually abandoned or who are being abandoned. So we try our best to reach out. We try our best to call or to call a neighbor to say, hey, go check on this client for me, see how they're doing or what's going on with them. And if we have to physically go, we try our best to go, but giving the distance and seeing what's going on. Some clients will actually abandon themselves because they probably don't have the access to medication, to food, to a number of things that they may need, particularly now that persons are not visiting, the neighbor cannot bring a plate of food for them. So they will go into some form of self-neglect, where they will not shower, they will not eat, they will not look after themselves, they will not do the necessary things to continue their daily living. So it's where that they're being abandoned by persons and they're abandoning themselves at the same time. So we need to be mindful of them as a community. We need to be reminded, hey, this person is there. Oh, Mary lives right across the road, so let's go and look after her. Let's bring something for her. Let's check on her. So we can minimize, because like you said earlier, we've had it in the past and it's going to be greater now. So we just need to put it on a, on a level.
Under this elder care program, how many workers do you have, and how is it by zones that you have persons working? How does it work out?
In our unit, we only have 2 of us.
2, okay.
One in the north, one in the south. So I am dealing with Canaries North, which is Belvedere, all the way to Dennery, Lakai, and my colleague deals with Dennery proper all the way to Soufrière, Buto side.
Or to put it more politically correct right now, you deal with 758 and your colleague deals with
I have a bit of 759 as well.
Okay,
yes.
Very interesting. Well, on that note, we are going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Andrea Alcide, who is an elder care worker.
These are my new superheroes. That's why they're all wearing masks, doing everything they can to keep everyone in St. Lucia safe. You don't think we know who you are, but we see you every single day. You are my friend's dad, my uncle, my father, my best friend's mom, my aunt, and the guy next door. You are the best of all of us, working together to save the world.
Not all superheroes get to wear capes, but you might have noticed they're all wearing masks. So, be a hero and wear one too. Stay safe, your Digicel family.
And welcome back. With me in studio is Ms. Andrea Alcide, a family case worker for the elderly. And as part of our national response to COVID-19, they are ensuring that the elderly are not forgotten. How important is it to have this unit? You operate under which ministry? You fall under which?
Ministry of Equity.
Ministry of Equity. How important is it for there to be such protocols in place within that ministry?
It is, because our main ministry deals with vulnerable groups, all vulnerable groups. However, it's important because as we know, our older persons population is growing. God forbid, hope not. By 2050, St. Lucia is supposed to have at least half of its population as elderly persons, and those persons need attention, they need care, they need assistance in a lot of stuff, like persons in pension, persons preparing, for end of life, persons who are being abused. And we find that in times gone, these persons were not given that special attention, that special care. Yes, that's just an older person, they live their life, so that's it for them. But now we try our best to ensure that older persons get that feeling that, yes, I matter too. My position in society matters as well. I have somebody to look after me. So say, for instance, an elderly comes and says, my daughter is abusing me or my grandson is abusing me. We know what to do. We would do the investigations. We would go before the court. We would try our best to assist as best as we can to ensure, like I said earlier, that they're safe, they're comfortable, and they're not in harm's way.
Do you work at all in conjunction or collaboration with the home caregivers? Do you get reports from them? Do they facilitate you in any way?
That's our best friends. Because they're the eyes and the ears, they're on the ground, they're with the clients every day, so they call us to report certain situations. We call them when we need help. Say, for instance, we've received a report that this client is being neglected. Yes, we would send a referral to the main office, but we would call and we'd say, hey, can you do this for me? This client lives alone, is being neglected. What can you do? How can you help? So yes, they're our partners. We work very close with them.
And I would imagine that another critical partner would be the police, if there are any situations where persons are being abused.
Yes, we would call on to them and they're there. The Vulnerable Persons Unit, they're there. If they cannot assist, they would probably call the CID and they would assist us whenever we call. They would actually go with us. And if it's a case where an older person is being abused by a neighbor, or being physically abused or what have you, they would do what they can to ensure that, hey, this person is okay.
Okay. Now, the vulnerable and the homeless, they have also been given due consideration in light of the curfew and the various protocols. And on Sunday, the first phase of the National Meals Program, as announced by the Prime Minister, was rolled out with thousands of meals being delivered to the less fortunate across St. Lucia. We take in this report from the Office of the Prime Minister.
The government of St. Lucia continues its strategic response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which includes taking care of the most vulnerable in our society. Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chasney announced in the Social Stabilization Plan that hot meals prepared by chefs and cooks from hotels and restaurants are part of the new National Meals Program, which began on Easter Sunday.
The SLHTA is also collaborating with the Ministry of Agriculture, other private sector associations, non-governmental and service organizations to undertake a national meals program. The first phase of the program will begin this Easter Sunday with a limited rollout. However, the program will eventually feed up to 5,000 underprivileged persons who are on that singular list on a daily basis using produce from our local farmers.
The National Meals Program, spearheaded by the St. Lucia Hotel Tourism Authority, together with the Ministry of Agriculture, saw the opening up of hotel kitchens for the preparation of food to be distributed throughout the length and breadth of the island. The soul of this project are the many farmers and fishers who will get a market for their produce during this time of uncertainty. CEO of SLHTA, Nurani Aziz, expressed that this National Meals Program is an excellent example of public and private sector collaboration, provides an opportunity for the hospitality industry to keep active and to give back to the country.
The SLHTA essentially reached out to a number of our hotels which have since been closed and a few other restaurants as well as kitchens around the island to enlist their support to donate their time and their resources to literally cook and prepare the meals and to prep them for distribution and consumption. In addition to that, we also assisted in costing out the meals and presented the various ministries with the necessary information regarding the procurement needs as well as the volume of ingredients to serve as inputs to the meal preparation. We also assisted in enlisting the support of a few tourism transportation providers who assisted in transporting the ingredients from point A to point B.
The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, was responsible for logistics and dispatch and worked closely with the Ministry of Social Transformation in ensuring that meals reach those in need.
The initiative took off very well. We were able to get the food to the various drop-off points. Castries, for instance, the Castries City Council was responsible for delivering to the various communities within the Castries area. A total of 15 hotels took part. Their Bay Gardens, Jake's in Rodney Bay, Sandals Grand, Serenity Vacation, Coco Palm Landings, Windjammer, June Catering, Pink Papaya, Rendezvous, Marigot Bay Resort, Moyan S, Ladera Resort, Jade Mountain, Fordu, and Coconut Bay. All of these hotels came together to provide the meals for those persons. We would like to thank also the Cadet Corps who came on board to deliver these meals to the various communities. They did a wonderful job in getting those meals to those persons. And so NIMO, together with the Cadet Corps, Event St. Lucia and SLHTA came together to ensure that those meals get out to those persons who were in need of the meal on Easter Sunday. I believe that this initiative is a great one. It will continue.
The National Meals Program is just one of the initiatives by the government to provide relief and to keep St. Lucia's economy going. Reporting for the Office of the Prime Minister, I am Danielle Dubois.
And certainly a very timely intervention there, and a very critical component in terms of, specifically with regards to the elderly, ensuring that they're eating properly, that they're eating on time, because sometimes that's another aspect of the neglect for the elderly we may encounter.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and we're also speaking about the sacrificial aspect when it comes to the elderly and giving persons some tips as to how they could help the elderly.
Okay, so we can help the elderly by reminding them of the reality of what's going on, keeping them in the know, giving them factual information, call them as often as possible, have a neighbor check on them. If you're visiting them, you can try as often as possible, but keep them safe, keep the distance. Ensure that the residential units, like the homes, the senior homes, Marion Home, Comfort Bay, that they follow protocol in keeping the distance, in doing the washing of the hands, all of that. And we need to pay special attention to those who are at risk, those who are ill, who have medical conditions, ensure that their medication is available, they eat on time, they've been showered and cared for on time. All the people who have cognitive challenges, like mental health challenges, ensure that they have their medication, ensure that they take the medication, ensure that if there are any signs of a relapse, that you know who to call, what time to call, what to do. Because really, the elderly will be stressed like everybody else. They are stressed about the situation. They're not having their visits as usual. Things are not being done the same way, so they will be stressed, they'll be anxious, they'll be angry. So we have to ensure that, you know, everything is done or everything is put in place as a community, as individuals, as family, to make sure that they're safe and they're comfortable. Mm-hmm. And like I mentioned earlier, for those who are tech savvy, call them, let them see your face, smile, give them a joke, tell them something nice, tell them something that happened in the past. There are some of them that will remember, they'll become anxious and will remember, say for instance, if they went through some critical situation, probably some war, some medical history that they've had that caused stress for them, you know, talk to them about it. Hey, remember you went through that, remember you went through this, and you came out of it, you were okay, because you did so. So this is what we're going to do in that situation to keep you alive, to keep you healthy. We also need to encourage them to listen to the radio, listen to news, but make sure they listen to where they can get the factual information, not all what the neighbors come to say that this is going on, this is, they will die, they will do this, but make sure that they listen to the factual information.
And
so
pay attention to NTS,
yes.
our information command center.
So they don't get confused and say, you know, I'm hearing this person saying that, that person saying that, but listen to the factual information. Remind them that if they feel ill, if they're feeling like they have a cough, if they have a heavy fever, all of the symptoms that we've been hearing, reminding me they feel that way, let you know, so you know what to do, you know how to assist them. I know older persons enjoy using their bush medicines, but we need to try to encourage them not to. We need to do things the right way. So if they feel that way, we know where to take them. If they're having respiratory challenges, we know where to take them, so we let the professionals do what they have to do. Also too, actually today I saw a number of older persons on the streets, probably they went to get their groceries done and so on, without wearing a mask.
All right.
So maybe they just don't want to, or they don't like the feel of it. So we need to remind them of the importance. We need to ensure that we teach them how to use it. If they don't know how to use it, if they cannot breathe with it, just teach them how to breathe with it, so they keep safe whilst they're out there. Remind them of the social distancing, that hey, you need to stand up 6 feet or very far away from the person in front you or behind you. As much as possible, for those that we're ensure that they're staying home, teach them something to do at home. Teach them an exercise, walk around the house how many times, go down the steps and come back. If there's space for a kitchen garden, bring stuff for them so they can have a kitchen garden this time so they get occupied, they don't get too bored, lonely or miserable. So we can do all of those little things to keep their mind refreshed, to keep them active and to minimize the fear, because I'm fearful, so far as them, the older person. So we need to try our best to minimize the fear so they can be comfortable and they can deal with this thing like we're trying our best to deal with it.
And as you said about the fears, saying to persons that it's okay to be afraid.
It is,
You know,
yes.
it's okay to be anxious at this moment, because most of us are. Most of us are just going through day to day. We don't know what tomorrow, because every day the situation is quite fluid and we're not even sure what will happen tomorrow or next week. We can't even plan so far ahead.
Yes.
I think that's one of the things you mentioned. You're still anxious being in here. You're quite nervous coming in here, even if we're practicing our social distancing.
Yes, I am. Whenever I have to leave home, I'm uncomfortable.
Okay, that's understandable. But what would you say to the public as far as the stigmatization we know may come with regards to healthcare workers, persons like yourself who are dealing with the elderly, you know, and just dealing with the situation on the front line? What would you say to persons in terms of, let us not stigmatize such persons, but if we practice the right protocols, we should be okay?
Like anybody else, as we've been seeing in the news, it's not only older persons dying as a result of COVID. So they shouldn't be stigmatizing older persons because, hey, it's said that many older persons are dying. So you treat older persons like you will treat anybody else with COVID or without COVID. Still do the social distancing, still wearing your mask, still washing your hands. But as much as possible, give them that extra care, that extra treatment so they can feel just as safe as you and I.
Now, you mentioned earlier on that this unit is a relatively new unit.
Yes, it is.
What would you say some of your programs that are in place beyond COVID? If you could speak to some of the measures that you have in place, not just with regards to COVID, but beyond that, as far as the elderly is concerned.
Okay, with regards to our unit, we, as much as we respond to every intake, every call we get, every case, every situation, we try our best to, on the various international days, like International Day of Older Persons, which is in October. In June, actually, June 15th, we're supposed to be celebrating awareness of elder abuse. We actually have an array of activities, but we're not sure how it's going to unfold with COVID going on. So we try to have relationships, we try to have meetings, we work a lot with the STOs, the social transformation officers, so they know that we're on board with them, we're there with them, the community knows, and it's not a matter of just the unit working on its own. We try to make ourselves known out there, so if anything happens, if a situation is happening, then hey, you know where to come to, and we need your help. We're not in this just as a unit, but we're in this together as a country. So that's some of the things that we do.
And I noted that you said International Day of Older Person. I know that's something we've been working on to get a politically correct term, and you don't say old persons or vieillon. We have to get the term right.
Not the elderly, older persons.
Okay, so the elderly, that term is passé, it's no longer in use.
Older persons.
I get that, I get that. Final overall message from you, some of the pointers that you want to give before we wrap up here today.
Okay, remember to check on our older persons regularly, as regular as possible. If there's report of some form of abuse, neglect, abandonment, take it seriously. Keep regular contact with them. When visiting them, try to stay, the distance, try to, use the various protocols. Make resources like medication, food, water, the various important essentials, make that available as best and as often as possible. And ensure that you try your best to keep them at home, especially now, because this thing is so uncomfortable. Try to keep them at home. Do all you can do for them. Get the groceries, get the medication. Make sure you have the medication for at least 2 months. So in the event it runs out or the pharmacy is closed when you need it, that you have it there. Also, too, use the resources available, like NEMO, the Division of Human Services, Red Cross, the hospitals, the police station, the health centers, VPT. Use the resources because we're in this together as a nation, so it's not just about human services, but all of us can help to make things better. And in case of an emergency, particularly, and I speak of abuse a lot because our older persons are being abused very often, take it seriously. report it, let the police do what they have to do, and take whatever other action afterwards. But ensure that we make every effort to keep our elderly comfortable and safe.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alcide, for that
You're most welcome,
information,
Tony.
and thanks for your unit and the interventions that you are embarking upon at this critical time.
You're most welcome.
Okay, so keep up the good work you're doing, and I do pray that you and your family remain safe. And to all our listeners and viewers, do stay safe as well. Continue to practice physical distancing, stay at home. If you must go out, if there's an emergency, wear a mask if you're out, and let us all continue to play our part in this fight against coronavirus. Thank you.